Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am your host, Black Vegas, and this is my co-host, partner in crime, the lovely Cardiac Sumo. How are you doing, sir?
I was hoping you'd introduce me as Darth Soul. I was
Well,
thinking of
you have
another
to come
rebranding
up
there.
with like a name. Like I'm changing mine from this default shit that I need to. Um, like, dude, like every time, and I forget. I'm Dark Megamus, and you can be uh let's just call you Darth Soul Sucker, since you
I was a
sap my
little
soul sometimes
suspect.
with your shenanigans. But we're here to just talk briefly about the Obi-Wan series that has debuted on Disney Plus. It's funny because it debuted Friday and we're already on episode 3 because they gave us 2 episodes on the 27th during the Star Wars celebration, and then they went to their regular schedule of Disney Plus shows.
Okay, so it's did all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like it did air originally on Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, because you had told me earlier, you were asking me if I'd seen the new one, and I said I didn't realize it was there because I just assumed they would be coming out on Friday.
I only knew because, see, this is how much of a nerd I am. I actually like set myself to be notified on Twitch with a tweet from the from the Obi-Wan account. So that was the first thing I saw this morning when I checked Twitter. It was like, oh, it's a new episode. Okay. So, yeah, I am a Star Wars fan. I am a rational Star Wars fan. Believe me. And if you don't believe me, you'll know by the end of this episode like when I'm finished. But yeah. So have you watched it?
No, I said I genuinely didn't even know it was there until like a couple of
Okay.
minutes before we started when you told me, so I haven't seen it yet.
All right. Which is fine because that's not necessarily the subject of um this whole recording. Just really quick for everybody who's watching though, we will spoil the first 2 episodes. Um, Not necessarily going out of our way to spoil it, but part of the content in there will probably, be pertinent to what we're about to talk about, which is the reaction to Obi-Wan, in particular, the reaction to the third sister, Reva. For those who don't know, third sister Reva is a member of what is their name? It's not
The
Inquisitors.
Inquisitors. Kind of.
It's actually there's a name and that I found out.
Oh,
Like that's weird. God, because Lucas can't just come up with shit. Inquisitorius are their official name. The
ew.
Inquisitorius. Yeah, I know.
Well,
It's the
whatever.
Inquisitorius program / Inquisitorius, or the Order of Inquisitors. Yeah, see,
Oh.
it can't be simple. Can't be simple these days. um,
I mean, especially with the Sith, it's got to be some kind of fancy.
of course, it has. It's Star Wars, but they are basically in order of, I guess you could say, Sith, Dark Jedi, who are working with Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. By the way, did you know what Darth Sidious's first name is? I found that out
Didn't
recently
occur to me that
too.
he had one. I've never thought about that.
I never thought about it too until like right before the show. I saw a clip from the Star Wars celebration, and they gave his name, and I'm like, okay, that's dumb. His name is Sheev.
She,
Sheev. Sheev.
Sheev.
Yes, Sheev
Well,
Palpatine.
well, no wonder he doesn't share it that much.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would just call myself Palpatine.
I guess back during the days of the Republic in the Senate or whatever. He just went by Senator Palpatine or whatever before he became emperor. So yeah, he always had a title, so we never had a reason to use his first name like that.
Yeah. Which is, whatever. Anyway, this group works to basically hunt down the last remaining Jedi in the galaxy and make sure that they have been completely eradicated after Order 66 went down. After, I guess, they felt like they were done with their business, they seemingly just disappeared from the galaxy, which is why you didn't see them in any of the original episodes, aka they weren't actually intended to be a thing until somebody decided to write about them in later years to flesh out the universe. So anyway, Reva seems to be the main protagonist, and she seems to be the main protagonist in life too, as she is a person of color. This is
antagonist.
Yeah. Did I say protagonist? Yeah. Sorry. I meant antagonist.
You're part of the woke mob.
No, she is actually a protagonist if you think about it, because she is getting rid of a problematic group, that is the Jedi. So I mean, you can make a case for that. And episode 3, you're gonna not to spoil anything, but you'll find a reason why my whole problematic comment kind of rings true. Trust me on this one. Anyway, so people aren't happy. One, they aren't happy that she's a woman. And a lot of people really aren't happy that she's an African American woman. She's a Black woman. So much so that she has been getting countless racial remarks and comments sent her way via social media. I don't know if she's gotten rid of her social media yet, but we've seen this whole act before. Remember the last woman of color who gained a not even prominent role in the universe, just a side role in the universe. The character Rose, I forget the young lady's first name, Tran. She actually got rid of her social media because of all the comments. And we've also seen it with gosh, I can't think. Why can't I think of people's real names anymore? The guy who played Finn. Jesus. Why are names? Okay, so we're both blanking on names. Good. But
I would have we used his name a lot at the time too, both of them. I'm like, wow, it didn't even occur to me that I didn't remember until you said that.
He got a lot of racist.
How do you forget a name like Boyega?
Yeah, John Boyega. Yeah, he's awesome too. But he got a lot of racial heat because of his role. Especially when the first trailer came out, everybody lost their shit because they thought that he was going to be actually the main character and be a Jedi, which is sad because y'all had a black Jedi before. Don't y'all remember Mace Windu? It ain't no groundbreaking. It wouldn't have been a groundbreaking thing. But people lost their shit for that, and then they lost their shit extra when they found out it was Rey. And then they were like, "Oh my God, it's a Mary Sue." And now we're having the same kind of conversation where they're saying the same things about Reva. Like she's a Mary Sue, and a lot of weird exposition around why she shouldn't be the way she is, how she's overpowered, how she's just making the Grand Inquisitor look stupid, how she doesn't fit. The worst being she's too beautiful to be a villain because she doesn't look Darthish enough, because apparently you're supposed to be an Ugmo if you're going to be a Sith. It's bottom line. What are your feelings to all this bullshit that is going on with this?
I guess the first thing with the overall racist attacks, because you do, like you said, you have seen this with other people. The very blatant, very direct harassment is a really ugly part of internet culture. And I don't think, especially if you're not in that position, I think it's hard to grasp, just how ugly those messages get unless those celebrities tend to share them, like, death threats, slurs, all kinds of things sent very directly to them. And then the reason I kind of point that out is I think, like, sometimes somebody on the internet might have like a very benign statement or be a little concerned about wokeism, or maybe even just have like a legitimate gripe with the character. And then when they see people complain about this, they get a little annoyed. And understandably, they're like, oh, if I say anything negative about it, it's just cast as racism or something. It makes it really difficult to talk about because there really are a bunch of psychos who are very super racist, going really hard at these people. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't really very easily separate like legitimate complaints wherever they might exist. I haven't seen many yet, from just outright racist trolling. It makes the conversation itself really weird and toxic.
Yeah. And it's not just racism, it's sexism too, because I see, a lot of people, again, the Mary Sue thing comes back up as it did with Ray. Like, how is she supposed to like get powers? Like, I've know people who came out and said, like, how this girl just come out of nowhere, with these abilities, and we ain't get no explanation. We ain't really get no explanation with any of Star Wars. Like, the brief explanations you get, like, there's Jedi, they have powers, and they do mystical force. That you got force things that you got in the original trilogy there was no deep dive into the lore of the Jedi to establish why Obi-Wan was what he was and why Darth Vader was what he was. They gave you enough brief exposition on what this whole thing was, and they went with it. Furthermore, why aren't y'all saying this about, other characters? Like, why didn't anybody get upset when Darth Maul just showed up on the scene, like, and was able to wreck, Qui-Gon?
I I don't understand it with, what's her name, Reva, I think you said.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the last trilogy. Like, if I remember it right, maybe I could understand it a little bit with Rey, because I don't think she even really knew anything about it, and then was fighting relatively proficiently even before Luke showed up and trained her. But with Reva, it's like, we have no idea how long Reva has been training. I don't even know how old she is, really. She looks kind of young, but like, say she was like a Padawan learner or something back when the Empire first felt like, she could have been trained like the last decade or something. So it's not clear to me why it's so crazy that she might. Well, let me take a step back even further than that. It's not clear to me that she's even that strong to begin with. Like, She hasn't really done anything that shows me she's all that powerful. She hasn't really done anything any normal Jedi or Sith can't do.
In a way, because remember when the Grand Inquisitor, like, she was gonna kill the Jedi that they found, he just stopped her in midair before she could hit him, and how he was able to toss her around a bit and things like that. Like, yeah, she did kill him, but that was just like, she just turned it real quickly and stabbed him. Like, I heard people complain, it was like, how she had the power to kill him. I was like, bruh, she just turned around and when he's standing next to him and stabbed him. It's not like she hit him with, like, let's duel to the death, and then she dueled him. Like, no.
It's like when Anakin killed Mace. It's like, I mean, probably Anakin at that point might have been stronger than Mace, but he didn't exactly.
He didn't see that shit coming. Yeah,
right. He was just he was busy with trying to restrain or kill rather Palpatine. Like, he just kind of surprised him in the moment. That wasn't like an example of Anakin overpowering Mace. That was just him getting the jump on him. And same thing with Reva and the Grand Inquisitor. Like, he was a little arrogant. He wasn't paying attention. And to be fair, she's a subordinate that he looks down on. So like, especially with like how oppressive the Imperial system is, I can kind of understand his attitude toward his underlings and not really thinking like, yeah, all of a sudden she's gonna body him out of nowhere.
Yeah,
so that one little display was not a display of power so much as just him letting his guard down and her being surprisingly ruthless from his point of view. Not even ruthless, just sort of impetuous. I can't even think of the word. Anakin like. So yeah, like outside of that, maybe a little parkour. She hasn't done anything that makes me think she's unusually strong.
Yeah,
for
like
a force wielder.
They brought up the parkour too, which I found laughable. It's like, yo, I mean, you can learn how to do that if you got the athletic.
I think of that scene where Anakin and Obi-Wan are like chasing that assassin, that sniper assassin along the rooftops that was after them. I can't even remember which movie that was in, but there's like a scene, it's kind of dark. They're chasing this woman. Right. They did a lot of parkour there too. Like maybe this one was a little better shot, but it's a much more recent piece of cinema. So
parkour wasn't the jam it was like it became back then as it is now. Right.
So yeah, like I'm not convinced she's that strong yet. Maybe she will be. I don't know. But even if she is stronger than, say, your typical Jedi or Sith or whatever, again, we don't really. It's not like with somebody, like Rey, who we kind of understood a little bit about before. Like we're just seeing her. She's already a dark Jedi. I don't know. You have to explain that categorization
exactly.
System a little better.
She's pretty much already like been trained as a Sith. And
we have no idea
people with force
doing it.
powers have like better physical abilities. I mean, did we not see fucking Luke make super jumps like and things like that? So I think being able to do like something that can be trained to the normal human being proficiently by a Jedi isn't a hard stretch if they could do all this crazy bullshit that they be doing. Also, going back to Luke, I always dispute the Mary Sue thing, even with Rey, in that we act like Luke was trained in the first movie to do the things that he was able to do before he got to Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. Remember, New Hope is maybe the span of a couple of days where he meets Ben, he finds his parents, his uncle and aunt dead. They go and get on the ship. He does a few lightsaber exercises with Ben. Ben gets killed. He flies in and saves the galaxy. That's it. Beginning of Empire Strikes Back. He clearly knows how to use his lightsaber well enough. He's shown to have used force abilities, beforehand. Like he knows how to do it. Like who taught him how to do that shit? Ghost Ben never showed up to him before up to that point.
I've seen them. I was gonna say, that era of Star Wars where I'm gonna have a little more difficulty because I haven't watched those movies in a long time and I don't remember them as clearly. But based on your description, I guess it sounds like Rey was more similar to Luke than she is to Reva.
Yeah.
We're this sort of rapid growth from nowhere. But like I said, if you want to make that argument, Rey and Luke are a better argument than Reva. It's like she has been trained somehow, somewhere. Unless you're gonna show me a flashback to a week before this started and she was just on the street.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When people saying she can't be this powerful, she doesn't. She just all of a sudden has these powers. We don't even know her history yet. They have yet to really say anything about who she is or where she comes from. Just like you didn't question necessarily the first time you ever saw the Inquisitors, who they were and where they came from. Why are you doing this now?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Rebels where they first came up, but they explained, at least in that show and maybe in the game too, that after Order 66, some of the Jedi joined the Empire, and so I assume at least most, if not all, of the Inquisitors were former Jedi, and that probably holds true for her too. So it's like she probably was actually trained as part of the Order anyway. So it's not shocking at all that she would be that.
Yeah,
I mean, there were tons of Jedi before
like
the Empire rose.
Yeah, like I speculated that to you that she probably was a Jedi. Like at something, she might have been one of the, Padawans that survives. It's been 10 years, since there.
Right.
So who knows what she's been doing in that time, and who knows how they recruit? Like, do they necessarily kill all of them that they find? Maybe they find some that like they feel like they can change. They can, manipulate to join the dark side. You don't know this. So,
as a matter of fact, the Grand Inquisitor was a former Jedi Knight, I believe. I don't know if he was a master or not. I'd have to look back at it. But like, because I remember it coming up in that Rebel show that like after he passed away or whatever, they showed us that he was a Jedi too.
Yeah, see. So, yeah, come on, y'all. Stop throwing out these weird excuses for people.
This feeling that these kind of characters come out of nowhere. I think you touched on it. I don't know if we had started recording it, but you kind of touched on it in the beginning that like a lot of the original stuff is not that fleshed out. So you don't have the Inquisitor system originally. You don't have, you actually don't have a lot of things, to be honest, that some of you are kind of used to having now. So like, there was kind of a extreme focus on Luke during the original trilogy, and then like an extreme focus on Anakin, obviously, as the main protagonist of the prequels, but like the rest of the universe isn't that fleshed out. So to you guys, these people might just kind of be coming out of nowhere because the original writing doesn't bother to focus on anything but them.
Yeah. And even if you want to like lean towards the expanded universe stuff that has been put out, that's not covering all bases either. That's covering the new lore that they wanted to develop. This is a galaxy full of a lot of people and a lot of things going on. And to assume that just what was written about is the only thing that existed until now, it's kind of ludicrous. I mean, until The Mandalorian came out, we've never heard about, the character in that show. Now, did we? We never heard about his adventures or his connections to, Luke, as he has connections to Luke and the Jedi, as we've seen in the first two series, things like that. Like, we didn't know about what Boba Fett did, like being a part of his story that's in the book of Boba Fett, until they did the book of Boba Fett. A lot of things like that. So, yeah.
A lot of Star Wars writing is backfilling.
Exactly. It is all fucking backfilling. And just everything is, in the lore is pretty much backfilled because nothing had been never explained in the original trilogy and in the prequel trilogy. And in the latest one, they didn't do that much, filling in. And when they tried to, y'all threw a fit. So, because it wasn't what you remembered from back in the day, So it's like, yeah, it all is. It's just all, and it's just all ridiculous how people are reacting and why they're doing this. If you think the show is bad because you don't like the writing, which I argue with somebody else was like, if you're complaining about the writing of this, then you're just complaining to complain because Jesus Christ, George Lucas can't write. And if you think this is bad in comparison to the shit that he's done or that any other previous Star Wars, property has done, you clearly just don't like Star Wars because you have to put up with this bad writing, things not being explained fully, things being backfilled, and just like corny demeanor and dialogue and characters and things like that. So all Star Wars is completely.
When I mentioned earlier that like the extreme racism that does occur makes it difficult to have the conversation because a lot of criticisms might be looked at as racist. Part of the reason I felt that way is because like I could understand finding Reva, we're only a couple episodes in, I haven't seen the third yet. I could understand finding her a little annoying in the same way that I personally tended to find Anakin annoying during the Clone Wars or Ezra annoying in Star Wars Rebels. Like these characters who just don't give a shit and do whatever the fuck they want, let their emotions lead the way. Yeah, I could find her being a little bit annoying that way. I mean, I wouldn't put it quite the same way, but similar to how I felt about Rey at the end of the third movie in that trilogy. You know what I mean? Like, I could understand having a complaint about the character, but like, it's kind of hard to do that outside of this context. But even then, like, doing it now would be kind of premature because again, we're only a couple episodes in. We don't know what her motivations are yet. We don't know why she's so obsessed with this dude. I don't know if it's just because she wants the Grand Inquisitor role or if she has some personal animosity toward Obi-Wan. She seems to. So yeah, I think it's a little too early to be having those kind of judgments anyway.
Right. Like, y'all gotta chill, y'all gotta calm down. It's not that serious. I don't like, and if you're just doing it because at the end of the day you're just being racist or sexist, just go fuck yourself. Like, seriously, like, get over it. There are going to be more people of color these days as time progresses, taking on these roles in properties that you covet, because that's just, it's the way that life is progressing. I know y'all hate to hear that because the word progressing is close to progressive. And if you hear the word progressive, then you start to equate it to like liberalism and all of that. But bottom line is, things change. People in society evolve, and that's the way they're evolving. And if you don't want to see like that black woman in that role, turn your fucking TV off and watch something else. It's the best I can offer to you. Yeah.
I hear a lot of talk about, the wokeism around some of these castings, and I don't know.
Star Wars has always been woke. It is a political drama. It's always been a political drama with, like, not as apparent. It became more apparent in the like prequels, oddly enough, which is wild that people don't point that out. But yeah, it's about the struggle against a tyrannical government that is being oppressive and doing things to hurt the people, and the people rising up to take action and restore liberty and rights to the galaxy, to make things equal. It's all about making things more equal. It's a liberal film series. Always has.
I guess I understand that in terms of the narrative. I was going to go the other way, which, I understand, like, you're seeing a lot more people of color coming in. People maybe feeling like some of those are just like, I don't know how you put it, being done for the wokeism itself. And I do think some of the creative teams don't help when they start bragging like, look at us. I'm a comic book fan, so I've seen this a lot the past 10, 15 years, just not as much recently because I've been reading, but like, oh, look at us, first Asian Pacific random queer, this, that. Like they do kind of brag about it in a weird way that makes you kind of, arc an eyebrow. But I think some of that concern, you could look at the other way and say, you feel like there is this sudden influx of like people of color or whatever, not just because like these studios are just doing that to make some kind of point, but because originally they were super white. Like, I always point this out with Marvel, right? Because I don't think we've heard as much about it recently because I think people are getting somewhat used to all the people of color who've been showing up there the last 5 years or so. But, early on, you kind of started to see that. And I was like, look at the original Avengers team, right? Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Hank Pym, Bruce Banner, Janet Van Dyne. Like, they're all those superhero teams that we think about are almost completely white dudes and then like a token white woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing on the DC side with the Justice League. You know, Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, Barry Allen, Hal Jordan, and then you gotta stick Wonder Woman in there. I don't count Martian Manhunter, but like Fantastic Four, the original X-Men cast. And when I say original, I mean like original. Like
see how racist you are. You don't count Martian
before. I forgot what that new group. You know when like Wolverine and Storm came after that. Like before, like
yeah, the
Jean
original
Grey,
group was
Bobby.
Angel,
Right.
Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, and what's their Iceman, Bobby.
Yeah. So like most of the well-known, all these characters are like exclusively white dudes, and then you'll have like one extra white woman on the team, maybe. So when you started seeing, especially in the movies and TV shows, more people of color come in, I think that feels like a more extreme change than it is, because it's like if you have like a white piece of paper and then you put like one black dot on it, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna kind of stand out because all of it had been white the whole time.
Right.
Not because it's really, I think that's like a cognitive illusion, is what I'm saying. Like, I think some of you guys are misinterpreting that move because you haven't really, you just got to grown up with the fact that all these characters have been white the whole time.
Yeah.
And not really thinking about that weird imbalance. And I would say something similar about Star Wars, because I saw a few weeks ago, I think, some claim that maybe the studio wanted to make the main character of Fallen Order a black woman. And, you know,
Yeah,
I kind
they
of
did.
jokingly said, like, why not an Asian woman or something? But like, in fairness, you know, Luke, obviously Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, all white dudes. You get to the prequel series with Anakin, also a white dude. You get to that game, also a white dude. I guess Ezra, I don't know what Ezra is. Maybe Hispanic or something. I don't know. But like, it's almost all men, almost all white, which is weird in a world filled with aliens and shit and robots. Like, it's all just happens to be white men leading every movie, every gay, or I forgot his name, but the dude in Force Unleashed, right? Also a white dude. Like,
right, yeah, Star Killer. Yeah.
Like that is common across their games, across their movies, across their TV shows. So it's like, I can kind of understand when you add like an extra person of color. It's like, what's happening? Like, well, you just didn't notice that they were all white men before. You were just kind of accepting that.
Right. It's just like it was a big deal when Lando showed up on the scene in Empire Strikes Back, because he was the first blackface that you really ever saw in that damn series. Like, there were no black people until Lando showed up on the scene. And after him, I can only think of only one other black person that I've seen in the original trilogy. And he was somebody who was just blown up in his fighter. All he said was, she's going to blow. And then you see him explode. So, like, yeah, things have changed, Even back then, they were showing signs of change because that's how things progress. The 70s were becoming a little bit more progressive because you've had the civil rights movement, and there were people out there willing to give more black people opportunities in bigger settings. Not as many, but there were people who were trying. It happened. It's just evolution of life. Sorry.
And while Star Wars, isn't perfect with it, like, it's not like they've had none. You mentioned Lando Calrissian. Obviously, people are in love with Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson. In the last game, Fallen Order, I guess the main villain Inquisitor is a person of color, but I was actually thinking of her master, who was a Jedi, who was like kind of a mentor role to you. She's a black woman too, right? There are black people in that. Not as many. Again, pretty white, but like, it's not like this is something new that they suddenly assaulted you with. It's not really that crazy.
Yeah, but y'all act like, just calm down, people, please. This is like, and again, if you're racist and you don't want to see it, turn it off. Like, go somewhere, be at peace with your racist thoughts somewhere else, while let other people enjoy things. You don't want to enjoy life because the person doesn't look like you. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It's not how life works. All right, before we go ahead.
You mentioned real quick one of the complaints you mentioned there was the idea that like I wanted to watch a show about Obi-Wan, not this random person. It's like, well, shows can have a main character and focus on other characters. That happens all the time.
They don't focus on
most
her
shows
that
are like
much. And she's the villain.
No, I mean, not that. I mean, just having another character that you like flash through every once in a while, I guess is what I mean. It's like it's not that big a deal. Most shows do something like that. Even with the villains, like that happens. Like watch a show and pay attention. That's not. Think of any show where you like pick a main protagonist. Are they really the only one you ever stick with?
Yeah. Also, it's the first 2 episodes. God damn it. We haven't even gotten to the climax of the show of the like story yet. Y'all, yeah. Good Lord. Come on.
I made the joke about like, aren't Sith supposed to be ugly myself? But like I wasn't that bothered by that.
Yeah. And that's where I wanted to go to close this out. To just kind of explain to you like my thoughts on that, because me and you had this conversation before, and I mentioned to you before, there's supposed to be some type of thing where like, yeah, being imbued in dark power can weigh on you, because I believe that tweet I sent you with the dumb girl talking about she's not Darthish enough because she's beautiful. So there are like key things that can happen sometimes. Like I know when Anakin started to turn in Revenge of the Sith, you notice how his eyes started to sink in and kind of get yellowish. That can happen as you, I guess, you kind of get lost to the dark side and things like that. But it's not necessarily true that you are ugly as a Sith. And the reason I say this is because if you look over the history of the Sith that we've been like introduced to, or at least most of the main Sith, for one, a lot of the quote unquote ugly ones were races that look strange, like the dark, like the Grand Inquisitor. That's not a normal human. That's just how they look as a race. Darth Maul. Who's to say Darth Maul isn't the most handsome motherfucker on this planet? That's just how his race looks, because his brother looks the same. If you've ever read any of the books, they introduced that he has a brother who also had powers, and he pretty much looks the same. That's the way they look.
People on what's their planet, Dathomite or whatever, they all look like that.
You want to talk about Emperor Palpatine? Well, I don't know if maybe he was unattractive to you as Emperor Palpatine before he was revealed. Maybe not. Like, for one, he's old, so age wears on the person anyway. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he was an ugly person, or he was a pretty person who turned ugly because of the Sith. He was an old man. He was actually turned ugly because Mace Windu fucked him up, and that's why he looks fucked up and ugly. Same thing with Anakin. While he had the sunken eyes and was the darkness on his face, Hayden Christensen wasn't an ugly person. Even with that, would you have said he was ugly?
I would have said he's too young for Padme. Sorry.
That's just a whole nother issue, sir. We're not even gonna go there. But he wasn't ugly. But Darth Vader became fucked up because Obi-Wan had the high ground and he fucked him up. Like, and you go back to what's his name? Christopher Lee's character, Count Dooku. Again, not an ugly person, just an old man. So this whole you can't be attractive in any way, and I'm glad they at least are acknowledging that this woman, Moses Ingram, is attractive. I'm glad they're not just calling her ugly as a part of their racism, but they're acknowledging that she's, an attractive
Imagine
woman.
being too attractive.
Right, exactly.
Nobody ever says that about me.
Right. Right. Like, and you're one of the most evil people I know. Like, but yeah. So there is
But
no
okay, that one
rule
isn't
that
a racist attack. That one's just kind of an illogical one. I did just add to the example list because I think
I'm
it's the
counting it as a
most
racist sign because I feel like they're trying to find reasons behind their dislike.
right.
If not racist, then it's just you trying to justify you being unreasonably like
I mean, yeah,
negative
like you
towards
see
a
it like
person.
again with the like the nerd fandoms are like that. Where like if they decide something is something they don't like, they will just make up any
They just
irrational
did it
reason
with
to justify that.
with Gore the God Butcher. Like he looks horrible. Why did they mess him up? Fuck.
The yeah, just to add to the example list you gave, because I think it's probably the best example. Again, in the Fallen Order game, the main villain is also an Inquisitor. I think she's the second sister in her shit. Trilla Sinduri or something like that. Woman of color, very beautiful character design. Not really that evil looking at all. I think I sent you a picture of her before we started. Like, it's almost the same thing, right? She's a pretty woman who is a Inquisitor, Sith, whatever you want to call her. So even doing this exact thing is not new at all. They literally did the same thing a couple years ago, and she was the main villain in her story.
Right.
Otherwise, all the other when I talk about like art Sith's supposed to be ugly, I think some of that is just I won't call it lazy writing, but like that's a sort of insistence on some of the other writers and designers over time. Like, well, they're going to be evil, so they should look evil, and like picking, like you said, races that kind of fit that mold better. So some of that might have just been a lack of creativity on their parts.
Yeah, and very much so. Because even looking at that character, it's like the worst you could say about her is like you can see the darkness around the eyes, but no, she's not ugly. So yeah, calm down. Stop making up these stupid excuses. Like you just don't want to like something because it's not either it's not what you're used to, or you're racist, or you're sexist, whatever it is. Stop it. Just don't like it and don't watch it. It's not making you watch it. It's not making you have to comment on it. There's a lot of things that I think suck that I don't talk about at all.
I think the darkness you're talking about is just makeup, which kind of I should have sent a better picture, but it's just makeup. It's not even dark around her eyes.
And so there you go.
Like, yeah, like,
but I'm sure somebody's going to point that out as like, see, her eyes are dark because it's just all stupid. Again, grow the fuck up and get over yourself. Jesus Christ.
I've said it about the Marvel fandom too, where it's like some of the things that drive me crazy when they start complaining is not just that it's racist or dumb or illogical. It's like some of the things you guys say are not even factually correct. I'm like, you're talking like you're these huge fans of this thing, and you're literally wrong about the thing you're complaining about. Like, go back, read the comic you think you're talking about, watch the movie you think you're talking about. You're not right.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, you're not as knowledgeable as you seem to think.
Yeah. It's just get over yourselves with that shit. Like, it's all fake shit anyway. So why are you gatekeeping? I never understood. Like, the shit, like, I can joke around with that shit, but at the end of the day, like, it's
and not to be a dick, but I will end by saying you guys are also part of the reason some of these, what's the word, fandom properties or whatever, kind of, to the extent they suck, you're part of the reason, because you're part of the reason that they can't really expand those universes very easily or add new things.
Right.
Like, some of you guys are the fans who insist on keeping everything the same and telling the same stories about the same characters over and over again. So it's like,
exactly. I think that's a great point to end on with this. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll try to do more of these type of things on properties. I feel like I might have to have a discussion with you on my catching up with the Marvel universe, as I have been totally behind. And
I was gonna ask if we're gonna talk about Shang-Chi.
not yet, because tonight I plan on finally watching Eternals.
Ooh.
That way I can finally get to Hawkeye, and then I could be ready for Spider-Man, because I still haven't watched Spider-Man yet either. And then once I watch Spider-Man, I'm totally caught up and ready for when everything else comes out after that.
Have you seen Moon Knight?
Oh shit. So I gotta watch Moon Knight too. All right. And you
That
want
would
to
be the
see
last
even
one.
more funnier? In the middle of all this, I gotta watch Book of Boba Fett too. So I am a very lapsed Disney property viewer.
Sure.
So
Honestly, though, I would say I'll probably rewatch some of them too, actually, because I'm like working on stuff. I'm like looking for stuff to watch. That's why I was like laughing when I realized, I didn't know Obi-Wan was on, because I'm like, I was literally sitting here looking for something to watch while I work. So I might just like rewatch some of them alongside you as you go.
okay, cool. Then I won't feel alone as I make the journey. So yeah, we'll discuss that later. But go watch episode 3 so I can discuss with you some more stuff. There's some shit that I want to talk about, definitely. So watch it as soon as possible. Again, thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. All right, peace.